We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome Yah, and there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can lose, we always win, you're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, you is the awesome Yah. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. But it's the awesome God. And there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. But it's the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. We lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. You is the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can lose. We always win. You're our champion. You is the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can we always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. You is the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome, yeah. There's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome, yeah. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. You are the awesome, yeah. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. You are the awesome God. There is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can't lose. We always win. You're our champion. Hallelujah. 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 Come on, give us praise. Hallelujah. 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 Great rising as we have gathered together this Yom Shabbat, a time of rest, a time to commemorate and celebrate our rest, a time that we refresh and rest our hearts, our minds, and our bodies. And it is so. As we're gathered here together today, we want to begin with the Baruch of the Torah. Repeat with me, Baruch Yahuwah. Baruch Yahuwah. The Baruch one. The Baruch one. Baruch is Yahuwah. Baruch is Yahuwah. The Baruch one. The Baruch one. For all eternity. For all eternity. Baruch atah. Baruch atah. Yahuwah. Yahuwah. our Supreme One,
our Supreme
King of the universe,
King of the universe,
who selected us from all the peoples,
who selected us from all the peoples,
and gave us his Torah.
and gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah.
giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
our Supreme One,
our Supreme One,
King of the universe,
King of the universe,
who gave us the Torah of truth,
who gave us the Torah of truth,
and implanted eternal life
and implanted eternal life
within us.
within us.
Baruch atah,
Baruch atah,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
giver of the Torah.
giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now we have the reading of the commandments by Brown, coming from the book of Devarim, chapter 5, verses 6 through 22. And it is so.
Aleph, I am Yahuwah your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bed of slavery. Bait, you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the man beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah your power, am a jealous power. Excuse me. Visiting the iniquity of the hours upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Gimel, you shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for you will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Doubt it, guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, that Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, honor your Abba and your Ima as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. While you shall not murder, saying, neither shall you commit adultery. Hate, neither shall you steal. Take, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Neither shall you desire your neighbor's wife, neither shall you covet your neighbor's babe, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words you hold unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Yahusha, the son of Nun, chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to the Torah all that Moshe, my servant, commanded you. Excuse me. You turn not from it to the right or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Excuse me. Verse 8, we're going to recite it together. Let us repeat this together. I will not let this scroll of the Torah depart out of my mouth, but I shall meditate on it day and night, that I may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then I shall make my way prosperous, and act wisely. And act wisely. Now look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Look at your neighbor. Tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Look across the room and tell your other neighbor, and you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Now take your hand and place it over your heart and say, Abba Yah, I shall act wisely. Come on, Abba Yah, I shall act wisely. I endeavor to act wisely. I endeavor to act wisely. And it is so. And it is so. Let's have a song.
There is power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb.
wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is peace, wonder working peace in the blood of the Lamb. There is peace, wonder working peace in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is peace, wonder working peace in the blood of the Lamb. There is peace, wonder working peace in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is a wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There's a wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. There's a wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There's a wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. There's a wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the blood of the Lamb. There is joy, wonder working joy in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is mercy, wonder working mercy in the blood of the Lamb. There is mercy, wonder working mercy in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is mercy, wonder working mercy in the blood of the Lamb. There is mercy, wonder working mercy in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder working power worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. Devarim chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes, his commandments, which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yisrael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you might increase mightily, as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah our supreme one, Yahuwah is Akkad. Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah is our Savior, Yahuwah is Akkad. And you shall love Yahuwah, your Savior, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall, to what? Bind to the mind. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be, when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore unto your Abbas, to Abraham, Isaac, and to Yaakov, to give you great and awesome cities which you did not build, and houses full of all great things which you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the air of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right and great in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. Let's have another song, please.
If it had not been for ya on my side, tell me where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for ya on my side? where would I be? Where would I be if it had not been for ya on my side? Tell me, where would I be? Where would I be?
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Be magnified, Abba Yah. Be magnified in this place. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Be magnified. Be magnified in this place. Be magnified in us, your people. Be magnified this great day, Abba Yah. We told our you for what you're doing, what you've done, and what you're yet going to do. Mishnah 15:8, the sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful, and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. Mishnah 3:4, so shall you find great understanding, high esteem in the sight of judgment of Yahuwah and man, and it is so. Tehillim 34:15, the eyes of you are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. Verse 17, the upright cry, and Yahuwah heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles. Acts 1:8, but we shall receive power after that the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon us, and we shall be witnesses unto him both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Shamara and unto the uttermost part of the earth. And it is so.
And it is so.
Tehillim 1:1, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the instructions, the teachings of Abba Yah, and he doth meditate upon it. And it is so.
And it is so.
Ibram 11:6, but without belief it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. It takes belief to be odd, obedient, diligent, disciplined. And it is so. Ayah 33:4, the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Somebody say he's a life giver.
He's a life giver.
Say it again, he is a life giver.
He's a life giver.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Micah 4:8, but truly I am full of power by the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah, and of judgment and of might, to declare unto Yaakov his transgression, and to Yisrael his sin. And it is so.
And it is so.
Excuse me. Yehukanan Moshiach, which is Mark 11:24. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that you have them, and ye shall receive them. Yehukanan Aleph 5:4-5. For whatsoever is born of Yahuwah overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our belief. Who is he that overcometh the world? But he that believeth that Yahusha is the Son of Yahuwah. Yehukanan Aleph chapter 2:5-6. For whoever keeps his Torah, truly the Ahava of Yahuwah is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought himself also to walk just as he walked. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. Verse 17, and the world passes away and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of Yahuwah abideth forever. Somebody say abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
Say it again, abideth forever.
Abideth forever.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now as we come to this portion, Devarim chapter 11 verses 13-22, and it reads, and it shall come to pass, if you listen carefully to my commandments, which I command you this day, to Ahava Yahuwah your power, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your corn and your wine and your oil. And I will send grass in your fields for your cattle, that you may eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and you turn aside and serve other power and worship them. And then Yahuwah's wrath be ignited against you. And he shut up Shemayim, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, unless you perish quickly from off the great land which Yahuwah gives you. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes, to fall, to bind to the mind. And you shall teach them, your children, speaking of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your bed and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children in the land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers to give them as the days of Shemayim upon the earth. For if you shall carefully keep all these commandments which I command you, to do them, to Ahava Yahuwah, your power, to walk in all his halakha, and to cling unto him. And it is so.
And it is so.
And to cling unto him. And it is so. Let us have one more song as we prepare.
Be magnified, be magnified, be magnified. Come on, be magnified. Come on, be magnified, be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in the temple. Be thou magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in the temple. Be thou magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in the temple. Be thou magnified. Be thou magnified. Be thou magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified. Be magnified in the heavens. Be magnified in the earth. Be magnified in this temple. Be thou magnified. Be thou magnified. Be thou magnified. Be thou magnified. Yahuwah. Be thou magnified.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Great is our God, and great to be praised. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. He's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy, he's worthy. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah. If we had not known Torah, we would not know what sin is. It's important that we understand the life that we live and the walk that we walk. It is because Abba Yah has brought it forth and revealed it unto us. So it behooves us to live and do exactly what he's given unto us to do. And it is so.
And it is so.
As we've come to this portion of our declaration, let us, say this together. Abba Yah,
Abba Yah,
in the name of Yahusha,
in the name of Yahushua,
our Mashiach,
our Mashiach,
we subdue ignorance
we subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge
And through this knowledge
of Torah truth,
of Torah truth,
we claim healing,
we claim healing,
shalom,
shalom,
deliverance,
deliverance,
and salvation.
and salvation.
We decree
We decree
Torah truth
Torah truth
in the lives
in the lives
of your people,
of your people,
our people,
our people.
Yisrael.
Yes, right.
We unite
We unite
not to fight
to fight
each other,
each other,
but the enemy
but the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We are not enemies. You are my Cody, you are my aunt. Even if we have difference of opinions and different views, we are still mishpachah. And it's important that we understand that. And it is so.
And it is so.
Let us prepare to seal and to prepare to move into the next phase of our class. Let us bow before our King and let us repeat this together. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. We have just recited Tehillim 19 and 15, and it is so.
And it is so.
You may be seated in his presence. As we have gathered this Yom Shabbat, a time of class, a time also that we commemorate, celebrate our Sabbath rest, a time that we rest our bodies and we cease from all labor on this day. And so it's important that we understand no servitude work, but we have a time of rest. But we don't rest from adhering to and to learning and listening to the voice of Abba Yah through his writings. It is so important that we understand that. For those that are tuning in on this Yom Shabbat, our theme on this week is Wayagash. And he drew near. And he drew near. That is our theme. As we went through the books on last night, we were able to cover Bereshit chapter 44 all the way to 46. And so now we're in 46. Yeah. We're in chapter 46. Excuse me. And we're looking at what is getting ready to take place as they're preparing to go to Mitzrayim. But before they get there, Yasrael takes not a detour, but he took his journey back to Beersheba, and he offered sacrifices to power of his Abba. Now, it's important that we understand there's so much more that took place between that time and him getting ready to leave. He takes his journey. He stops. He makes a stop. And on his way, he is prepared to offer up to Abiyah. And Abiyah secures his heart to let him know that all will be well when he gets where he's going. Now, what is so interesting to me as I've been reading in the writings also from the book of Yasher, and it just fills in so much. And so I want to look at a little bit of that just to kind of pull in the gaps and kind of close in some things. One of the things that that is really important is that when he sent them away, we know in the latter part of chapter 45, as he gave them the gifts, he didn't forget his sister. Remember, he had a sister as well. Even though they would want you to believe that he only dealt with his Ak, he also sent excuse me, raiment and gifts unto his sister. He sent silver, gold, and he sent garments for her as well.
Right, that's right.
And so, in that, it allows us to know that he didn't forget anybody. He left no one out. And so when they get, one of the things that, the reason why Joseph was concerned about them when they were leaving, and he told them, he said, now don't argue and don't fuss among yourselves. Because he realized that when they left, that they would begin to chatter about certain things, and doing so, it would possibly cause them to begin to argue and fuss among each other. Well, he didn't want that to take place. So he told them, he said, now don't worry about it. He said, now when you go, not only do you tell him, but show him these things. Because remember, all the stuff that happened, they have to go back and they have to convince him that he is still alive. Right. Because right now, their credibility with him is not too good. Are you hearing me? It's not too good. And so with that, they get there, and one of the things that is so amazing to me is how sometime in history things can be taken out, and not even history. Ours is our story.
That's right.
Not history, but our story. That means that everybody that is a part of Yasrael is included. But when you say his story, you have to realize that's two words, his story.
That's right.
But when you say our story, it makes it inclusive of the women and as well.
That's right.
And so it's important that we understand that. Now, let's look at what takes place. For those of you that may have the book of Yasher, that's fine. And for those of you that don't, I will read it to you. It's in chapter 54. Now, I'm going to read this because this is important, because I want you to see the involvement also of the women. It was not that women were left out, but they were also included. Right. It's important that we understand that they have a voice, that we have a voice. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to rebuttal anybody's belief or whatever. First and foremost, it is in the writings. And when we began to understand the importance and the impact of unity, Abiyah didn't just come to set the men free. He came to set the whole Mishpachah free.
Right.
He came to set us all at liberty. And so it's important that we understand everybody had a vital part in this. And so one of the things that was important and necessary is that when they get home, they are talking among themselves, trying to figure out how are we going to talk to him and convince him that this is so. And so according to the book of Yasher, as they came in and they got close to their houses, they found Sirach, the daughter of Asher, going forth to meet them. And the damsel was very good and subtle and knew how to play upon the harp. So now y'all follow me. This is in the book of Yeshua. Now, once again, this is them making it there, and now they're getting ready to present this information to Yisrael. And so as they prepare to present this information to Yisrael, now it says they were alarmed at the words. It said, because he's not going to believe us. He will be greatly alarmed at our words and will not believe what we're going to say. So they call unto her. And so they ask her, because she knows how to play upon the harp. And they called unto her, and she came before them, and she kissed them, and they took her and gave her a harp, saying, go now before our Abba, and sit before him, and strike upon the harp, and speak these words. So you have to understand, this is amazing, because you know why? It just follows along in history. There is a music is very impacting.
Right.
That's right.
Music delivers a message when we alone outside of that cannot. Mm-hmm. Music breaks barriers, and it goes beyond sometimes what we are capable of doing by just putting it forth without rhythm. Yes. And without a sound. Yes. And so it is important, and it was amazing when I saw this, what they asked of her to do and what she did. Basically, she sung to him what was taking place. Now, listen what it says. And they commanded her to go to their house, and she took the harp and hastened before them, and she came and sat near Yaakov. And she played well and sang and uttered in the sweetness of her words, Joseph, my uncle, is living, and he rules throughout the land of Mitzrayim and is not dead. In other words, she dropped some bars. While she was playing that harp, she had to get there. What is so amazing about this to me is that this is why we can really see why the enemy does what he does to fight music. Why the lyrics are so twisted. You have to understand, whereas just normally just saying something, sometimes it's kind of hard for people to get it. But when it's in a song, even babies can turn around and get it. They can be 2 and 3 years old and get it. Now, y'all, not to digress, but I saw something on Facebook, and if I could have gotten a hold to the parents, because the papa of the video said if I could have gotten to the ema of this, he said I would have choked her. I'm telling y'all, the baby had a diaper on, and she was no taller than this. At first, I said, maybe that's a little woman. No, it was a little girl, and she might have been that tall. Y'all, she was twerking. And I'm not saying to be funny, but she was doing it better than some grown women. And she was going, and everybody was coming, and they said, this is a shame, and it is. But you know, you learn from example, and you listen. The only way she could know how to do that is she was listening to the music, she was listening to the rhythm, and she was able, as small as she was, with a diaper on. Now, you can twerk yourself and still have a diaper on, you can ask for that pot. Are y'all understanding me? Yes. But once again, you have to understand the power of music. The power of music and the power of song. This is why it's important that we just don't let any and everything get in our listening gate.
That's right.
In our ear gate. Because when it gets in your ear gate, it is what helps you to make choices and decisions. It is what helps us to make complicated decisions. It is what helps us to move forward or to stand still. It is what allows us to embrace or reject. And so it is important and necessary that we watch our ear gates. There's some songs out there that are, I believe, that are so beautiful. But then you have to really listen to the words. Because if you don't listen to the words, you'll be so overtaken with the music that while you're listening to the music, the words are seeping in. Yeah. They're seeping in, and they are changing you. Like I say, I'm coming to understand, and I don't want to say a haba on music, but I like to listen to a certain genre of music. And so when it's all said and done, but my focus is, what are they saying? Because I don't want to get so caught up in the music that I don't understand what they're saying, and then I start acting all crazy, and I'm wondering why. It's because I allowed the words of the melody to get inside of, and now I'm acting out the words. So it's important. But the positive side of this is look at what kind of impact we can have on people's lives with the right kind of music and the right voice. This is what she was able to do. Everybody can't sing, but for those that can, remember what you're doing and remember the power and the impact that you can have upon somebody's life with your words, mixed in with music. It's important that we understand that. Now listen, it says, and she continued to repeat and utter these words, and Yaakov heard her words, and they were agreeable to him. Now, when we read back over in here, and we're going to go back over into, Bereshit chapter 46. Once again, just going back over what we dealt with on last night, but also bringing the book of Yesher into it so that we can see and see the unspoken words and see the unrevealed action until we go into the book of Yesher. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Now, it's important that we understand that once again, because you got to remember their credibility was what? Shot. It was shot with him. So there had to be something more impacting and powerful that he would give ear to. And so this is what was taking place. Now, 97, verse 97 says, he listened while she repeated them twice and thrice. And joy into the heart of Yaakov at the sweetness of her words, and the ruach of Yahuwah was upon him, and he knew all her words to be true. To be true, hear me. Once again, what we cannot do, music can.
That's right.
But the important part of it is making sure it's the right music. Because even negative music has an impact.
That's right.
It has an impact. And so once again, let's look at what's going on. But when you look at this, this was taken out. Or not so much taken out, it was not revealed. So you would tend to believe that nobody else had a part in this. You have to understand, they are a mishpachah. And as a mishpachah, and you know if you have a mishpachah, everybody is involved. Right. Even when you maybe try not to get them involved. But everybody's involved. And so we see the involvement of this. Now let's look at this, and then we're going to go back into Bereshit. And she continued to sing these words, and Yaakov listened, and it pleased him, and he rejoiced, and the ruach of Yahuwah was upon him. While he was yet speaking with her, behold, his sons came to him with horses and chariots, and royal garments and servants running before them. And Yaakov rose up to meet them, and saw his sons dressed in royal garments, and he saw all the treasures that Joseph had sent to them. And they said unto him, be informed that our brother Joseph is living, and it is he who rules throughout the land of Mitzrayim, and it is he who spoke unto us as we told you. Now, once again, it's important. Now, look at verse 103, and we're going to go back once again. And Yaakov heard all the words of his sons, and his heart palpitated at their words, for he could not believe them until he saw all that Joseph had given them and what he had sent him, and all the signs which Joseph has spoken unto them. Now, once again, it's important that we understand what's taking place here. Sometimes we see just a dark, bleak canvas, when in all truthfulness, there is so much more that is on this canvas, but we were denied access, but now we have that access. And so now when you see a mishpachah that says, look, things are changing for us. The time has changed for us. And guess what? As Abba Yah has shown us, we are walking into that.
That's right.
And so everybody had a part. Now listen what it says. And Yaakov said, it is enough for me that my son, Joseph, is still living. And it says, wait a minute. And they spoke to him, verse 104, out before him and showed him all that Joseph had sent. They gave unto each what Joseph had sent him. And he knew that they had spoken the truth, and he rejoiced exceedingly on account of his son. Now, once again, we don't get all that in between. We only think that they come and he's struggling to believe their words. All we see is that, he faints and then he comes back. We don't see truthfully what is taking place here. Right. Because you have to understand, for years he thought that his son was dead.
That's right.
So it took more than just he's alive and he's in Mitzrayim.
That's right.
It had to be something that truly moved him. Now listen what it says in 105. And Yaakov said, it is enough for me. And we read that in Bereshit. He said, it is enough for me that my son Joseph is still living. I will go and see him before I die. 106. And his sons told him all that had befallen them. And Yaakov said, I will go down to Mitzrayim to see my son and his offering. Now, once again, it's important that we understand that part that was missing, but now has been put in to its rightful place. Right. It's important that we understand all these things. Once again, let us not truly not forget what it is, what's important about these writings, about us following even the Torah portions. It allows us to see a lot of things that we did not see before. You have to remember, we're still scratching the very surface of what it is that Abba Yah desires to show us. Right. We've got to get the basics and the foundational before we can get the more stronger revelations. Right. And so once again, because we don't want to go off being half-cocked and not really fully getting everything that he desires for us to have. And so I wanted to share that. So as we read again, we can begin to really see what's taking place. Once again, as we read on last night, we were able to see the chemistry of the brothers as they sat with Joseph. And as they began to dialogue, and as Yehuda stood up, and you have to understand there was more that took place in that time. They were really about to get down to some brawling, because Yehuda was like, look, you asked us to come here, you asked us to bring our baby up, we done all this, now we in this situation. And he stands up because remember, he said that he would bear shoulder the blame or responsibility if anything happened to Benjamin. And so now he is faced with this. And so in chapter 45, he is faced with this. And so now he's got to deal with it. 44 and 45, he is faced with having to stand toe-to-toe with Joseph, the governor of Mitzrayim, and convince him he can't stay. If he stays, you don't realize the damage that can come upon our Abba. So you have to understand, here he is, but he's adamant about keeping his word. He is adamant about keeping his word to Yisrael. How adamant are we when it comes to keeping our word? Are we the same way? Have we made put our word out there, and then a situation arises, and now we feel like, well, I ain't nothing I can do. I mean, I told him I was going to do it, but this came up, and then we turn around and we renege? When you do that, guess what happens? You turn right around and you change everything. Right, that's right. Because now your credibility has been what? Shot down, shot. And I'm talking about with a double-barrel shotgun. Because who wants to believe a person that does not keep their word? He was determined to keep his word because he realized, I didn't put my mouth on here, now I can't do this. I can't let him down again. Are you hearing me? Yes. Again. Because they already knew what had happened to Joseph, and they had to lie. Now, you have to understand, they didn't go back telling Yisrael the truth. They went back and told a lie. They knew what they had done. They knew they had sold him, but they lied and said that he was killed. Right. So now you got to look at him every day of your life and his life. And you know you've lied. You know you've lied. So they had to also bear that grief, and they had to walk with that lie in their mouths and in their heart that they told their Abba concerning Joseph. So you have to understand, all this stuff is coming together, and finally when it comes to the head, and it comes to that point to where now Joseph cannot hold it any longer, and he reveals himself to his Abba. He wept. Now once again, I said it on last night, crying and weeping are two different things. Because you know, a person can cry, you won't even know unless you see the tears fall from their place. You know, you have that quiet cry, and it's just, you just see the tears roll down. Then you got that one where you up in there and you trying to keep from hollering and screaming, but you're doing everything because you about to pass out. But then there are those times that you don't care who hears you. And that was the time when Joseph needed to reveal himself. Because you have to understand, as they had it bottled up in him, so did he. For all those years, I believe it was 20 years, he had that bottled up in him, and so did they. At that time of release, they wept. He wept. And he wept so loud that Pharaoh's house heard him. You have to understand, even if you in the other room, You still have to really be weeping in order for somebody to come in and hear you.
Right.
You got to be coming from your belly with that type of weeping.
Right.
To the point that it is a release, because not only do you hear it, but you also what? Feel it.
That's right.
Because there is a breaking and there is a loosing of those things. Once again, you got to be able to forgive. And this is how you know. Because when tears fall, that's when you know that's a release from the heart. Because you know, okay, I can't hold this any longer. I can't. And so not only did he do that, but to show that he was sincere, he embraced them and he kissed them. Now, mind you, he is second to the baby. He's the second to the baby. Benjamin is the baby, and he comes next. But he had to take the role of being the Abba, because remember in the writings it says that he was the Abba of Pharaoh. So how can we be a parent to somebody outside of our mishpachah, but then we can't embrace and be a parent to those that are a part of the mishpachah? Because we're angry. He had to do what his Abba failed to do. And that was to embrace them and kiss them and to affirm them. You have to understand what he had to do. And you have to understand that takes a big heart, and that takes truly having the ahava of Yahuwah, right, and truly being willing to forgive.
Right. That's right.
To forgive. And he went to the extremes to do what he had to do because he truly did ahava them. And so afterwards, they were able to talk. And then they went on their way. And then that's when we see everything happen. But you have to understand, there was so much more that happened with them being in the house of Joseph.
Right.
There was so much more that took place. Once again, when we don't see these things, we tend to believe, oh, it just, it didn't happen. You have to understand the caliber and when it comes to the temperament of these Ak. When Dinah, their sister, was violated, they became violent. They became very violent. Now here it is, Benjamin is being put in the same place. So you don't think, once again, that they became adamant about, now, enough is enough, bro. Now we know you got the corn and the grain and all that stuff, but you didn't put the envelope. Right. Because we are not about to succumb to what you have just asked us to do. Right. So you have to understand the things that was going on, but once again, the resolve that came out of it.
Right. Right. That's right.
That what came out of it. Truth, and they were able to resolve what was going on. That is why it's important that we understand that if we don't watch the lives of our ancestors and forefathers, how can we truly know how to bring resolution to a long term years of conflict in the mishpachah? Can't do it. Can't do it. Because what pattern you going to follow? Please don't follow the world system and pattern. Because they'll have you brawling, shooting, and killing each other. Shooting, cutting, and cussing each other. Or profaning one another. So it's important that we understand you've got to be careful and we got to follow what he's given unto us. And there are things that are in the writing. You can read it 100 and plus times. But when you read it again, there is always something you're able to pull out of it and find it.
That's right. That
will help in your situation, that will help in our situations.
Right.
And so once again, they were able to get this thing together, and he was content with what he had heard, but they had to kind of do that sneak attack. They had to do that covert, that special ops movement, where they had to get him open to receive it through song. And then when they came in and he was able to see it, and they were able to basically the door was open for him to receive it, then he was able to do, once again, music, believe it or not, opens doors to many things.
That's right.
It opens doors to many things. That is why, once again, we have to be careful in the music that we listen to. That is true. Why? Because you don't want to open the door to something else, or open a door that you can't close.
Right.
Or close a door that you can't reopen. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
We have to be careful of the music we listen to. And like I say, we do tend to listen to all genre, and even in that we have to be very careful. Like how you pick through food sometimes. You're like, no, I don't like onions. No, let me get that out of there. I don't need that. I don't want that either. And so you have to really be careful in what you allow to get into your soul. And so once again, as we look at what's taking place, we're in chapter 46 of Bereshit, and we're at we stopped at verse, all right, verse 4. Now he goes to, once again, to Bereshit, I think it is, yes. He offers up sacrifice to power of his Abba Isaac. And Power spoke to Yasrael in the visions of the night and said, Yaakov, Yaakov. And anytime he says anything twice, it is very important that we understand the emphasis in that this is going to take place. Whenever Yahuwah says a word twice, it means pay close attention. This will come to pass. Right. And so it's important that we understand that. Now listen what he says. And Power spoke to Yasrael in the vision of the night and said, Yaakov, Yaakov. And he said, here I am. And he said, I am the power of your Abba. Do not fear to go down to Mitzrayim, for I will make you a great nation there. Now, it's important that we understand he had already said he was going to make them a great nation. This is where we cannot afford to get in the way of Abba Yah. When he says he's going to do something, then what we need to do is move back and let him do it. We can't afford to allow ourselves to be distracted, to be taken and lose focus because we're trying to figure out how we can do it. If he said, I'm going to do it, then all you have to do is just do what you do and let him do the rest. Right. Are you hearing me? Yes. Once again, this is where we run into problems, and this is where people say, well, I know how he's going to do it. He's going to do it because he's going to do it this way. And nowhere did he say, all he said is what? He said, I will make you a great nation. He never said how. That is not for us to go in and try to fill in the blanks. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
That is not for us to do. But you tend to have men and women that will come in and begin to try to rewrite and, create customs. And so it's important that we listen. When he says a thing, he's going to do it. And guess what? He doesn't need our help. All he needs is our obedience and our commitment and our agreeing to doing it.
That's right.
And that's the way it's supposed to be done. Nothing less and nothing more. And it is so. All right, let's read 5, 6, 7, and 8, please.
From Abraham scriptures. I will go down with you to Mitzrayim, and I will also surely bring up again. And Joseph's own hand will close your eyes. And Yaakov rose from Beersheba, and the sons of Yasrael carried their father Yaakov, their little ones, and their wives in the carts which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their livestock and their goods, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to Mitzrayim, Yaakov and all his descendants with him. 6
to 7.
His sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his descendants he brought with him to Mitzrayim, and it is so.
And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. All right, listen what he says in verse 4. I will go down with you to Mitzrayim, and I will also surely bring you up again. And Joseph's own hands will close your eyes. Now you have to understand what Abigail was giving to him. He was letting him know, I'm going to take care of you.
That's right.
And that what you desire, it will be so. Because, once again, Joseph was the son of his Ahava. And so, even though he was not the eldest, he was still the son of his Ahava. And so he would be the one that would do so. And Yaakov arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Yasrael carried their Abba Yaakov, their little ones, and their wives in the carts which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. Now, they didn't even have to walk. That's what you have to understand. When they went back, they went back to pick up Yaakov, and it's like they went and picked him up with a limousine, or in limousine style. Yep. And that way he would not to walk, but he would be able to ride the whole way. Now, once again, when you see where it says, and their wives, they're talking, that's plural. They're talking about the 12 tribes. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Even Benjamin had wives, had a wife, rather. And so when you begin to look at that, the problem comes in is that we try to make, when you have a plural section, we're trying to bring singularity out of it. If it says the sons, then that means there's going to be wives. That makes it plural because the sons had what? They had wives because they have a wife.
That's right.
So you have to understand the grammar here, you have to understand the setup. Whenever we take it out of context, that's when problems happen. Because Yahuwah said, I will do what? Greatly multiply you. Are you understanding?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that. Now, verse 6 says, and they took their livestock and their grapes, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to Mitzrayim. Yaakov and all his descendants with him. So once again, we're seeing who is going with him. Verse 7 says, and his sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his descendants who brought with him to Mitzrayim. Now let's look at this again. His sons and his sons' sons. So that meant they were old enough. His sons, and their sons. So that meant that was what? His sons, his sons' sons, his sons, his sons, and their sons. That's 3 generations. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's 3 generations. Now, they're all married. They're all producing. You are going to have a large mishpachah with that.
Yes.
And you don't have 2 and 3 wives. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Because the sons were able to produce. Their sons were of age to produce. So if you go by generation, the generations were able to produce.
That's right.
Because this is how Yahuwah said it was going to be done. So it's important that we understand that once again, this is what he said. Now, and he said his daughters and his sons' daughters and all their descendants. He's showing us that it is that the improbable and possible, and it was done, that the multiplication had already began even before they got into Mitzrayim, but it was going to truly expand because now what? You have the children that are more mature, and now you have the daughters and the sons. Are you hearing me? So now this is where you're able to see where the gap is bridged in and to where there is no gap. Now, once again, the reason why we could, if we were to follow in that mindset, look at that, is based upon how Christianity has presented it, and even the writings when you don't read them in their proper context.
That's right.
When you think that only the 12 sons are going, you don't think that they have sons that have sons. You only think, well, they're just going to go. And why is this in their many wives? No, what about their sons that have a wife? And their sons that are old enough to bring forth offspring? We don't think about that. So we find ourselves in a position to where now we're saying instead of them being old enough to produce and then their children produce, we're now trying to say, well, it takes more women when in actuality it takes the mishpachah as he brings forth.
That's right.
Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Because why would you have more women and less men? You have to understand that that's our way of thinking. That's not the way of Abba Yah.
That's right.
He had sons and daughters, and the daughters were bringing forth as well. May not like it, but it's the truth anyhow.
That's right.
Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Once again, it shows in the writings. Now, he's getting ready to show us, in verse 8, the names of the children of Yisrael. Now, we're going to read 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Please.
Verse 8. Now these are the names of the children of Yazdan, who went to Mitzrayim: Yaakov and his sons, Reuben, Yaakov's Bechor. The sons of Reuben, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Shimon, Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Zohar, Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. The sons of Mai, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Yehuda, Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, let us look at what's going on. And like I say, as we read, now these are the names of the children of Yisrael who went to Mitzrayim: Yaakov and his sons, Reuben, Yaakov's Bechor, the sons of Reuben, Canaan, Enoch, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Shimeon, Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yakin, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. Now, he went and he got with a Canaanite woman. This is evidence that Shimon had another, no, I'm not going to read that. He had children, but it says that he went down to the Canaanite woman and he brought forth. And it even talks about in the book of Yesher that he went and married a Canaanite woman, just like we saw Yehuda do. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
He went and got married and brought forth a wife. Now, it's important that we understand why these things are brought forth so that we can also see where there were other offspring. Now, let's look at this. Now, the sons of Luai, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, or Merari. The sons of Yehuda, Onan, Shelah, Rez, and Zerah. Now, but and Onan died in the land of Canaan, and the sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. Now, the sons of Yasakar, Tola, Puah, Yoeb, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun, Sered, Elon, and Yahiel. These were the sons of Leah, which she bore to Yaakov in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the persons of his sons and his daughters were 33. The sons of Gad, Ziphion, Haggai, Shunai, Etzbon, Eri, Arodi, and Ariel. Now, let's read 17, because I want to show you something. Let's read 17, 18, 19, and 20.
Sons of Asher, Yimnah, Yeshua, Isu, Barak, and Sarah, their sister. And the sons of Barak, Heber, and Mashiach. These were the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah, his daughter. And these she bore to Yaakov, 16 persons. The sons of Rachel, Yaakov's wife, Joseph, and Benjamin. And Joseph in the land of Israel were born Manasseh and Ephraim, who ascended the daughter of
Potiphar,
Kohen of on board to him. And it is so.
and it is so. Now, let's read. Now, let's look at, once again, verse 18 said, these were the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah, his daughter. Now, let's finish reading, and I want to show you something.
The son of Benjamin, Bela, Bekor, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ai, Rosh, Hukim, Hum, and Ar. These were the sons of Rachel who were born to Yaakov, 14 persons in all. The son of Dan, Hushim, and the son of Naphtali, Yaziel, Guni, Yezer, and Shelah.
And it is so. All right, let's read 25, 26, 27, and 28.
These were the sons of Bilhah, who Laban gave to Rachel his daughter. And she bore these to Yaakov, 7 persons in all. All the persons who went Yaakov to Mitzrayim, who came from his body, besides Yaakov's sons' wives, were 60 persons in all. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Mitzrayim, were 2 persons. All the persons of the house of Yaakov who went to Mitzrayim were 70. Then he sent Yehuda before him to Joseph, to point out before him the way of Goshen, and they came to the land of Goshen. And it is so.
And it is so. Now verse 26 says, now look at it, tells you, these were the sons of Bilhah, who Laban gave to Rachel, his daughter, and she bore these to Yaakov, 7 persons in all. So she gave birth to 7. Okay? Now, it is distinguished and it is shown when there are other wives involved. If you notice, they did not give any other names for wives. They did not. You hear me? Yes. But it shows when they went there. All the persons who went with Yaakov to Mitzrayim, who came from his body, besides Yaakov's sons' wives, were 66 persons in all. In other words, his sons had their own wife. Their sons' had their own wife. Are you hearing me? Mm-hmm. And so it's important. Why? Because if he would have had a wife, it would have said, just like it showed when Yehuda had gone to, Shimeon, the son of Shimeon, Yemuel, Yamam, Ohad, Yakin, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of Canaanite woman. Each time it made reference to the children, it always gave if there was an extra woman involved. Are y'all following me? Y'all see this what I'm saying, right? It showed. When it's not an extra, that means there was nobody else, because you have to give credit for where the child came from. Right. So once again, it is important that we understand that what he took in there was what helped to populate and make up the family or the mishpachah of Yisrael. Because remember, they were still children. Their children were still having children. They had never stopped. That's right. Are you hearing me? Yes. So once again, it's important. Whenever we try to get in the way and we start trying to help Abiyah, that's when we cause problems. He doesn't need our help to multiply. That's right. In other words, he doesn't need us to go and grab somebody else. He told Chava and Hadam, be fruitful and multiply. If it was supposed to be somebody else there, they would have been included too. Right. But they were not. This is where man has come in and basically customs and traditions and said, well, in order for that to be, we've got to do this. No, in order for it to be, you have to trust Abba Yah. That's right. That's right. He knows what to do. He knows how to open and close a womb. He knows how to give a womb rest, and he knows how to jumpstart it for it to bring forth. This is where we've got to begin to get out of the way and let him be who he is. And that's the creator. That's right. And stop trying to do his job. All you have to do is be walk in and cooperate with what he said to do. That's right. Through obedience. Not through you trying to make a better way. Now look what it said. And the sons of Joseph who were born to him at Mitzrayim were 2 persons. All the persons of the house of Yaakov who went to Mitzrayim were 70. Now, once again, it's important that we understand they're giving a census and showing us how many people are a part of the mishpachah of Yisrael. And look what he does after they get through counting and all that good stuff. Then he sent Yehuda before him to Joseph to point out before him the way to Goshen. And they came to the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to Goshen to meet his Abba Yisrael. And he presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. So they stood there and basically wept together for a good while. We ain't talking about 2 seconds. No, it was some good old weeping going on. Wasn't nobody, y'all ain't done yet. Really, it doesn't take all that. You know how people can be so insensitive and feel like, well, dog, it don't take all that. You with them now, shoot, give them some air. No, you have to understand when you have been disconnected from somebody that you truly ahava and you finally are able to be back in their presence, man, you just want to sit there and embrace them and not let them go. That's right. And not let them go. But once again, we've seen all these crazy TV shows and we've seen all this stuff in the Western civilization. And the first thing we act like is, well, we can't be doing all that, but we can't be looking all, all crazy and all that. And all that. Sometimes, back up. You ain't got to be all on me like that. Are you understanding me? Yes. It takes that and some. Because you have to understand that was restoration. And until you've ever been in a position to where you've been estranged, or you have been away from your mishpachah, and have not had any dealings, when that reunion is, it is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. A genuine reunion. I'm not talking about, well, I ain't got nobody else and I ain't got nothing else to do, so I'll come around every now and then when you come, a couple of tears may be shed, and then you go and nothing else. No, I'm talking about when this thing is genuine. When it is genuine, it is a feeling, and it is also in the sound.
That's right.
And that's true. Once again, he was able to express himself with his Ak and his Akodi. Now he was expressing it with his Abba. Because you have to understand, he was removed from his life abruptly. No, see you later. I'm sure the last thing he said to him is, I'll be back and we'll talk some more. And he never came back. So it was always that open space there in his heart that he was expecting him, and he never came. But now he is there.
That's right.
So of course you're gonna be right there. You're gonna be like, oh no, give me some time. No, I'm not letting him go all the time. You have to understand that's a long time to be estranged from somebody. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about you just down the street. I'm talking about, no, to be estranged and disconnected from them. Are you understanding?
Yes.
All right. Now let's read 30, 31, and 32, please.
Then Joseph said to his brothers and to his household, I will go up and tell Pharaoh and say to him, my brothers and those of my Abba's house, who were in the land of Canaan, have come to me. And the men are shepherds, for their occupation has been to feed livestock. And they have brought their flocks, their herds, and all that they have. So it shall be when Pharaoh calls you and says, what is your occupation? And it is so.
And it is so. Verse 32. 30.
Oh, I'm sorry. Starting 31. And Yasarel, verse 30. And Yasarel said to Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen your face, because you are still alive.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now, once again, this is where you start getting order and orchestrating things. Then Joseph said to his to his household. He was speaking to everybody. I will go up and tell Pharaoh and say to him, my and those of my Abba's house who were in the land of Canaan have come to me. In other words, letting them know y'all moving in, y'all getting settled in, and everything will be copacetic, because remember, they're still in the what? The famine. So you have to understand, taking in, people gonna make sure ain't nobody else trying to be your what you call it when they jump on a stowaway. You trying to make sure you ain't got nobody storing away. Well, I'm with them. I'm with that family. They with me. I'm with them. And you trying to have people that's kind of trying to, jump on the bandwagon. So he had to go and let them know. And he said, and the men are shepherds. Their occupation has been to feed livestock, and they have brought their livestock, or their flock, their herds, and all that they have. So it shall be, when Pharaoh calls you, you shall say, what is your occupation? Now you have to understand, once again, the reason why this was important is because they idolized and they worshipped animals. They did not eat the animals. They worshipped and they idolized them. So for them to be shepherds and for them to have flock and livestock and have them tied up and to have them basically in corrals, to them was inhumane. You know how you had these humane societies that say, cruelty to animals and all of that stuff. Well, they was doing that back then too. Ain't nothing new under the sun.
That's right. So
they were doing that same thing. And so to them, that would be cruelty to animals. And then don't let them see them killing them and eating it. That would be doubly cruel. So he had to make sure that there was an understanding of what the occupation was and what it was they were doing. Are you understanding? Yes. So once again, he had to make sure everything would be straight. Now, in verse 34, it says that you shall say, your servant's occupation has been with livestock from our youth even till now. Both we and also our Abbas, that you may dwell in the land of Goshen. Now, once again, it is important because they would be able to see them with livestock and see what they were doing. And so to them, once again, it would be an act of inhumane an inhumane act towards animals, and that they would have felt like, okay, this is not right, because this is what we regard as guardians. We regard them as guardians. We regard them as being something to be worshipped, and even they regarded them close like family. And so once again, you have to understand, even though they were given space to be there, they still had to make sure that every I was dotted and every T crossed, so they wouldn't get there and this would turn into something different before time. He said, every shepherd is an abomination to Mitzrayim. Once again, you have to understand, they were an abomination. So you're asking me to come, but also you got to know who I am and what I am. Now you have to understand that was a really great mix in that sense. Okay, now, the Egyptians worshipped bulls and sheep as power. Thus, these people did not like those who ate these animals. The same can be seen in India today, where the Muslims and Christians eat cows. But Hindus worship the cows as sacred. Therefore, they hate the people who eat these animals, and many times violence erupts because of this. Now, they'll walk around all day long talking about feed us, and they'll have that big old fat cow over there because that's their deity. Now, it's amazing. That's your deity, then cause it to produce you some food. Are you understanding? Yes. This is how serious they are about their belief system. They will not eat it, and if you eat it, they will talk about you and they will downgrade you, because to them, it is their power, and this is what they regard. So once again, it's important that we look at these things. And this is why even with people, and I know some of you may not like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's the truth. This is why when most of the time people become vegans, it is hard for them to deal with people that eat meat. You have to understand, we follow the kosher law according to Vayikra chapter 11. I'm not going to disannul, and I'm not going to speak against what Abba Yah has put in the writings. I didn't say man, I said Abba Yah has put in the writings. It's important that we understand what he gave us permission to do. And when you understand that and understand what is being said, so many times those verses, even after Noah had come forth out of the ark, you have to understand, when you don't have the right interpretation, you're going to always misinterpret it, and it's going to always cause division. And you have to understand, Abba Yah is not for division and confusion. But you do have to understand, when Yahushua came, he was sent, and through him coming to bring forth truth, it was to bring dissension and a sword in the midst of the mishpachah. Why? Because everybody's not going to believe the way you believe, especially if you're walking in truth. You walking in truth, you can be guaranteed, if your mishpachah does not follow, it's going to bring a sword in the midst of your mishpachah. Because you got people that turn around and accept truth, and then you have those that reject it. So if we at the table and we're eating, and somebody trying to get their point across, I might be eating, a ribeye, sitting down and a baked potato and a salad. And the person that could possibly be, just using it as an example, and my mishpachah is a vegan. Well, I can guarantee you they're not going to hold their peace. The moment I start cutting that steak and eating, well, that's an abomination. How can you put that flesh in your mouth? I eat it because he said I can. And I have to eat it according to the instructions. It's done. It ain't bloody. I can eat it.
That's right.
But you would prefer to eat salads, and you would prefer to eat cucumbers and all the rest of that. I have no problem with that. You do what you do, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it's still wrong. Now, somebody can say, well, how can you say that easily? Because it is wrong, especially when we can find it blatantly in Vayikra 11. Nowhere does he say in the writing, set it aside, that you are supposed to just eat vegetation. Nowhere. And that is important for us to understand. I know for a lot of people, well, that's bold because he told us not to eat the flesh with blood in it. You have to understand what that means. No, you are not supposed to eat the meat with blood in it. But you have to understand, meat in itself does not have blood in it. It is in the blood vessels. And when you do not cut that meat or dress that meat properly, yes, blood will seep deep into the meat. Now, somebody would say, well, no matter how you do it, it's going to get in there. Most of the meat that you buy out of the supermarkets has been basically dyed. Meat, when it comes forth, is brown. It is not red.
That's right.
So that you see coming out of there is red dyed. It is not blood. It is not blood. And so with that being said, you have so many people that turn right around, misinterpret that verse, and then try to condemn and have everybody to hell because they eat meat. Or they get these videos that somebody drug up or dug up from way on the other side under the mountain somewhere over in maybe Asia, maybe somewhere in Africa, wherever, with mucus in the meat. And the first thing they say is, this is what you're eating. You can pull that up, but what about the stuff that they said that they had to recall on the vegetables because they had E. coli?
Right.
That means that it had been contaminated with fecal matter. Now, once again, it is important that we understand anything that's here can be contaminated if it is not handled properly.
That's right.
Just because you eat vegetables does not mean that you're eating clean.
Right. That's right.
Eating clean means to eat according to the kosher diet.
Yes, that's right.
That's eating clean. Nothing else. And I know people say, well, I just can't eat no meat. Well, if you can't eat it, then chump it up to you saying you can't eat it. But do not try to misinterpret the writings and say that the writings forbid us from eating meat.
That's right.
Because now you are creating your own doctrine and your own law. Once again, nobody want to eat nothing with all that in it. And we don't eat pork. Once again, you see them talking about that, but you hear people every now and then talk about pork, but you want to talk about something, let's talk about that nasty pig. Because that's what we are forbidden to eat. We are forbidden to eat anything that is not kosher. And so it's important that we understand that. People want to try to make you feel bad because you eat your meat and you're going on. No, we eat it and we enjoy it and we give thanks for it.
That's right.
We don't give thanks for pig because that's unacceptable.
That's right.
But everything that's in that kosher law, he said we can have. Now, once again, it's important that we understand. And when you look in the writing, it said he that was of a weak belief ate vegetation or was a vegan. That's in the Hadashah. So once again, it's important that we understand and be careful of what we adhere to and what we began to say clean. Because remember, he told Kepha now, and when I say this, you have to understand, he told Kepha when he was on top of the house, he said, call not common what I have clean. Now, he was talking about the 12 tribes or the 10 tribes of Yisrael. When the tablecloth came out, or it was spread out while he's in his time of prayer. And Yahuwah, he said, do not call. He said, oh, no, Abiyah, I will not eat that. He said, none of these have ever touched my, he said, this is not touched, because there was a variety of things. And so Yahuwah told him, he said, do not call what I have baruch. Now you have to understand. And the reason why I'm using this as a reference, because this is talking about the 10 tribes of prostituting tribes of Yisrael. Because you have to remember, there were the group of the circumcision and the group of the uncircumcision. If you were circumcised, then you were those that were looked at as being kosher and set apart. If you walked a life that was not circumcised, that meant you were out there, wilding out and doing everything but what you're supposed to do.
That's right.
And so there was no camaraderie, there was no unity there. And so when he told him that, basically he was saying, you still have a responsibility to go and deal with them. You just can't shut them. And that was when Cornelius came up and Yahuwah told him, say, now go to them. Now, the reason why I use that is because that's the same mentality that we have when God is giving us certain things. We turn around and say, I'm not going to eat that. That's not kosher. Do you really believe that Abba Yah would give us something that is not kosher to eat? He would not. But you have to understand there are certain things that he puts in place and certain things that he does to show us and to give us analogies and to give us things that are on point and to give us things that are hidden mysteries and then things that are analogies and then things that are reality. So once again, you have to know which is which. Because if not, we'll be heaping up everything in one pot, and we'll just say, just like people say, you know, just because you have some melanin in your skin, you black. All, you know, they all black people. No, we're not. Because when you know who you are and know your identity, you will not let anybody call you black. Whether you high chocolate or yellow peanut butter, whatever you may want to call yourself. You go, no, I'm not black. Are you understand me? I know who I am. I'm not a crayon coming out of a crayon box. I know my identity. And just because you say I have no backing, that's what you say, but Yahuwah backing me. And if he's backing me, then guess what? I don't need nobody else to back me. So it's important that we understand that. Once again, we can't take and twist the scriptures. Now look at who was eating it. It was those that were outside of truth, that regarded animals in a way, well, you know, they have a life too. And some of us, as Ibrahim, say that same thing. Well, I can't see killing them because that's just wrong. You sound just like them in Mitzrayim.
That's right.
Well, that's abuse. Really? Okay, let's say about in a year or two, if everybody gonna still have that same mentality. Now I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's say. Let's see if everybody will still have that mentality in about a year or two. And it is so. He told them, but he gave them specifics on what they needed to do while they would dwell in Goshen. So that everybody would understand. Once he decreed it to Pharaoh, then Pharaoh could tell everybody in the kingdom, okay, now y'all don't be going over there trying to stone them people. Leave them people alone. Leave them alone. I gave them permission to be here because he did. He had to do that in order to keep it from becoming something like a civil war within there. That's why I believe Joseph said, this is how you address him so he will know and he can tell the people of Mitzrayim, because all of them have what? The same mindset.
That's right.
So you up there, you trying to do what you're doing with your livestock, and then you got people like, look at what they're doing. That's an abomination. We need to go over there and kill them. So then, you know, you don't touch. No, you don't. You don't want to do that. Are you understanding? Yes. So you got to make sure that they was doing that which was right. And so, once again, that is so important unto us. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, chapter 47, verse 27.
And it is so. Verse 27. So Yisrael dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, and the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and grew and multiplied exceedingly.
And it is so. So Yisrael dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. In, excuse me, in a time of what? Famine. They were still able to multiply. They were still able to have things. Why? Because Abiyah promised them. Once again, we cannot afford to try to come in and explain what Abiyah did not explain. If he didn't explain it, don't you?
That's right. That's right.
Because you have to understand, we're not big enough, and then we are not knowledgeable enough to try to explain what he left no explanation for. If he said they multiplied, and we see those that went in, then accept it and move on. That's the way it's going to be done. It was 70 of them that went in there, and he multiplied them. He did it, not them intervening and trying to make something happen. Are you understanding?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that, because then we will get in trouble, because now we're trying to walk up something that we should not, and it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let us go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, and we have 13 verses we're going to read. All right, let's read. Everybody can read one verse. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. 865. Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 15 through 28. I'm sorry for that reading to you. verse 15 and 16. Finish out that thought.
Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 15. The word of Yahuwah came again to me, saying, Moreover, you son of man, take yourself one etz and write upon. For Yehuda and for the children of Yasodel, his companions. Then take another etz and write upon it. For Yosef the etz of Ephraim, and for all the house of Yasodel, his companions. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, you have to look at what's going on here. What's taking place here? That is truly phenomenal. Now, he's talking about children of Yisrael. And as we look into this, before in chapter 37, in the first part, we see the prophecy of the in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, dry bones. In Christianity, you have people, I've preached it, I've done so much with it, with that, it was so off and so wrong. This is talking about the Yisrael. And verse 2 it said, and caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahuwah, you know. Now, once again, you have to understand what's going on here. This is talking about the I don't use the word fate. This is talking about the future, and this was talking about what was taking place at that time concerning Yisrael. And he said, you know, and he said to me, prophesy upon these bones and say to them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus says Master Yahuwah to these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter you, and you shall have life. You shall have life. Now you have to understand, these are bones. These are bones. And I wish I had one to show so that we could get that in our minds. No meat, no sinew, no nothing, just some dry, bleached bones. Y'all know them chicken bones that you done ate the top off, peeled the bottom off, and it ain't nothing but a drum, like a true drumstick. You can drum in the air with it. You know, you done sucked all the meat off of the bone. I'm talking about that kind of bone. But as a human bone, dry. Now watch what's going on here. And he says to him, thus says Master Yahuwah to these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter you, and you shall have life. Now, mind you, Yahuwah does not see what we see. He sees what's already done, but he has to take us through, I don't want to say theatrics, but he has to take us on a level and through a phase where we can understand what he's doing and not we got we don't go and go off. So he has to put it in a manner where he can show us and we don't freak out. Because you have to understand, we're looking at bones, and he said, breath is going to enter. First of all, where is it going to hold to? What is it going to stick to? Well, you have to already see, he already sees a complete man or woman. We just see the bones. Are you understanding me? He's doing it just like you do building blocks. He's building and showing us. All right? Now listen what he says. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall have life, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Once again, you have to understand what is taking place here. Why is it important for us to understand before we even get to verse 15? Because it's showing us the phases that our ancestors and forefathers went through. This is dead Israelites during the exile. Dead since a long time. Yahuwah asked Ezekiel what he thinks of the dead bones, which are really dead people. And Ezekiel, not wanting to offend, replies, you know, which was the correct response from a priest of the Most High, or from a priest of Abba Yah. You know, you have to use wisdom. You don't get up there rattling your mouth to Abba Yah. No, you know. You know what they do. That's why people get talking all crazy about us as people. Well, who would do it? He knows what he can do. He knows what he can do. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
He knows what he can do. He knows what he's capable of doing. Now listen what it says. Time to resurrect those that belong to the house of Yisrael. The resurrection of these does not require them to know the Western character of Jesus, Yahusha, but these only need to belong to Yisrael. So biology does indeed count. Once again, it's important that we understand how. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
We're supposed to look at this. How we are supposed to be discouraged. Because let me tell you something, when you deal with us sometimes, if we're not careful, we will get in our feelings and our emotions. Because sometimes dealing with us, you sometimes say, I'm going to back away from this and I'm going to use wisdom. Because if I don't, it's going to be a verbal war. And that's not what we can afford to do with each other. That's why I don't believe in debating, because debating just takes you down the road and now you're mad with each other. You're going to criticize one another and you're going to slander one another.
That's right.
Because tempers rise. No, I'm right. No, you right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, you wrong. I'm right. No. Let's just read. No, I don't hear nothing you got to say, because you the devil and you can't tell me nothing. Now you're going to get offended. I'm the devil. Who you think you're talking to? I ain't no devil. Now it goes into a whole nother vein, because now you can't control or maintain your temper. And a lot of people say, well, it's good, we can't do that, but they may not directly say it to you, but they'll still bring out a negative word concerning us as a people, as a whole.
Yep.
Where y'all, well, man, that ain't me. No, I ain't talking about you, but you still, I'm included in that. Because when you say the Mishpachah of Yisrael, you're talking about me. Because I can't opt myself out, and neither do I want to. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
I love who I am. I love the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. People slander. If they slander those that's on the street doing what they do, and they are us, guess what? You slander me.
That's right.
Because they are still a part of us. You slander the camps, even though we don't see eye to eye and they don't do everything right. But if they are the chosen and they outside doing everything else, if they are slandered, so are we. Because we are supposed to be what? One. These are the dry bones. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
They the dry bones that need to live.
That's right.
So you got to remember and see them in the position and in the light that they're in. And not go out there trying to smash their bones and kill them, break them up. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Now that's what he says. Clearly these people who were biological Israelites died in the scattering and may have even adopted other religions such as Islam, Hinduism, or whatever. Yahuwah resurrects them, puts a new ruach into them, and then they know who Yahuwah really is, because they did not know previously. Now, and it says some of these could have been born in exiled lands and so forth. Now, it's important that we understand. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Everything that Abiyah is saying. Now, even with that, this is when he is saying, he is just putting out a hypothesis, which is an educase. He said it could be. So meaning that it is not solid and concrete. Does that make sense? It could be. And it also could be those that are out there that are still dead but thinking they're alive. You know what? It's something like with a battery. A battery can act out as long as it's on that alternator. If it's dead, the moment that alternator is removed, it is going to die. It's going to show the true state of what it is. If it is alive, it can still maintain without that alternator. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Now, it's important that we understand these things. And the reason it's important that we understand is that we don't go off handcuffed and then start saying things that we ought not to say. Are you hearing me? Once again, we are all in different phases. I know what he gave me, 3 R's. Recovery, restoration, revival. We're being recovered. Why? Because we were scattered. We were lost. We were out there doing everything. And now we're in a place of recovery, and now he's restoring us.
That's right.
So those that are still out there that may be walking contrary, even though we know that they are a part of us, there are times that we have to understand and continue to pray I almost unplugged it, the will of Abba Yah to continue to flow, and so that truth will be manifested. It's not that it's not already released, it just needs to be manifested in the lives of those that are still walking outside of truth.
That's right.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
This is where we have to open up our hearts and minds, and even our hearts to truth, and not get out there and damn everybody. That's not for us to do.
That's right.
You have to understand, once again, we've got to persuade and we've got to be able to convince those prostitutes that ain't the way. Because when you've been living in a way for so long and it's working for you, you ain't ready to give that way up. Not too soon unless you can show them and show us a better way. And when you can show us a better way, we're willing to let it go. But until then, we ain't ready to let that lifestyle go. So this is why we have to be use wisdom, and we have to see what he's showing us. Am I making sense?
Yes.
All right. Now this is what he says. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinew and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. No breath, no Torah, no life. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
It is important that we understand that Torah directs us to the path of life, which is Yahusha. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
It is Yahusha that shows us how to live and how to govern our lives in the manner that Yahuwah has called us to do so.
Sure.
It's important that we understand that. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
I hope y'all hear me. I ain't boring nobody, am I? All right. Now, it's important that we understand that. Now, then said he to me, prophesy to the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus says Master or Sovereign Yahuwah, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up upon their feet, and an exceeding great army. Are you hearing me? Then he said to me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Yisrael. Behold, they say our bones are dry and our hope is lost. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Once again, it's important that we understand this. We are cut off for our parts. Now, once again, the reason why we have to look at that as us as well is because we are part of what? The prostituting sheep of Yisrael.
That's right.
And this is why he said in the beginning, he said, even on those bones, he said, I will breathe life into them. So in order for them to receive the sinew and to receive the skin and receive all that, there had to be life that was breathed into those bones to be able to receive life. Right. So he breathed life, then he turned again and he sealed the life that was on them, that he placed on them. Once again, you have to understand, this is Torah way. And everybody won't understand it. Why? Because it's not given to everybody to understand.
That's right.
Now look what it says. Therefore prophesy and say to them, thus says Sovereign Yahuwah, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Yisrael. And then you shall know that I am Yahuwah when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, and shall put my ruach in you, and you shall live. And I shall place you in your own land. Are you understanding me? This is an exhortation for us as the children of power to hold on and remain committed to what he has promised us.
That's right.
See, he said, I'm going to put you in your own land. That means this is showing us abroad. Are you understanding? He saw in the valley, yes. But also you have to understand that valley also represents that place of separation.
That's right.
Death. So it's important we understand. He said, and I will put you in your own land. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. And he said, then shall you know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken it and performed it, says Yahuwah. He said, you will know I spoke it and performed it. The word of Yahuwah came to me again saying, now this is the second time he's saying, and this is where we are reading in verse 15 to 28. Now, he says, the word of Yahuwah came again to me saying, moreover, you son of man, take yourself one etzah and write upon it for Yehudah and for the children of Yisrael, his companions, Then take another etzah and write upon it for Joseph, the children or the etzah of Ephraim, and for all the house of Yasrael, his companions. Now, if you notice, in each one, Yasrael is placed twice. It's placed twice. Now, once again, let's look at it again. Moreover, you son of man, take yourself one etzah and write upon it for Yehuda, and for the children of Yasrael, his companions. So once again, Yehuda and Yasrael are companions. We are a unit. We are mishpachah. We are not enemies. Now look what he says again. And he says, then take another etzah and write upon it for Joseph, the etzah of Ephraim. For all the house of Yasrael is his companions. So once again, you have to understand, when Yahuwah said this, he knew what he was saying and what he was giving the prophet to do. He didn't say for a people outside of Yasrael. He said for who? Yasrael.
That's right.
Are you understanding me?
Yes.
And Yehuda, you have to understand, Yasrael exceeded the growth of Yehuda. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
You had 10. You had 2. You hear me?
Yes.
So we have to understand, huh?
Simple math.
Simple math. Are you understanding? All right, now let's look at this again. Verse 17. Let's read 17. 17 for me. I read 16. Now somebody read 17 for me, please.
And join them one to another into the etz, and they shall become cod in your hand. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so.
And it is so. And look what he says, and join them one to another into one etzah, and they shall become a cod in your hand. This is where in Romans chapter 11, I believe it is, where it talks about the engrafting. This is what Ezekiel was doing. He was grafting the branches together. And then in Romans chapter 11, when Rabbi Shaul began to talk about it, this is where he begins to show them in the renewed covenant what it looked like in the renewal.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is why, once again, it's important that we never let anybody take us and say, well, you know, that's the other people, that's the church, that's other people, another group of people. No, he made it clear here what it would look like, and Romaya shows it to us. Are you hearing me? Then you have to understand what it means to be broken. It didn't mean to be completely broken off. To break something means, you know, when you break a branch and that branch is still hanging on just a little bit. That's what it meant when he said we were broken off because we were still hanging on. He didn't sever us completely off of the main trunk.
That's right.
We were just broken, and now we're being grafted back in with what? With other branches on it. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
But not of a foreign people.
That's right.
From our own people. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Because we're not grafting in a different type of tree. We're grafting in the same tree, and the same tree is going to only do what? Produce after its what? Own kind.
That's right.
All right. Now, verse 17. Let's read that. Oh, we read 17. I'm sorry. Let's read 18.
And when the children of your people shall speak to you, saying, will you not show us what you mean by these?
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, once again, let's look at that. That's verse 10. Now, let's look at this. Now, when we read this, and I want to read this, and when the children of your people, and when the children of whose people? And when the children of who? Your people. It said outsiders. It says your people. Ask this. Why? Because it comes about. It's going to be asked. He said, and when the children of your people shall speak to you, saying, okay, wait, let me not go back past that. What does this mean by these? Then you're supposed to tell them. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Is there something different?
Yes.
All right. Now, let me show you discrepancy. Let me show you the discrepancy in the King James. Was that NIV?
Yes.
All right. Let's read.
Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 18 from the NIV scriptures. When your countrymen ask you, won't you tell us what you mean by this?
And then so, verse 17. Read it again for me. I mean 18, I'm sorry.
When your countrymen ask you, won't you tell us what you mean by this? And it is so.
And it is so. Now, When you say countryman, that makes it real what? Broad. Because countryman could be anybody. Country that came from somewhere else, and that's because they lived there. They are now considered what? Countrymen. But in the writings, it is specific about who asked. And when the children of your people, are you hearing me? The children of your people, our people, shall speak to you, saying, will you not show us what you mean by these? Now, once again, let's look at 19. But let me read this. And join them one to another. Now, let me show you what this is and what it means about in the hand. Now, the Hebrew word here is akkad, meaning to unite them into one tree. Basically, Ezekiel is showing grafting in one Gentile tree into the other in drash. In other words, remember when I told you a while back that we were Gentiles. Now, somebody would say, we ain't no Gentiles. You have to understand the meaning or the concept of that. We were because we did not acknowledge and recognize who we were. So we called ourselves black. We called ourselves everything but who we really are. And that is why we began to address ourselves. And so we were disconnected or detached from who we were. So we were walking and addressing and claiming the identity of a Gentile.
Right.
Because we took on the characteristics and took on the culture that we were raised in, brought up in, and born in. And why we were called Gentiles? Because we were away from the way we were supposed to practice life, the way we were supposed to live life, the way we were supposed to do things. So the problem comes in, once again, is when people misinterpret that word Gentile to mean that it means everybody but us.
Right.
That everybody else can come rushing in but us. No, that means us, because at that time, before we were walking in truth, we were not Ibram. Even though, watch this, we were, but we were not walking in it, and we were not acknowledging that we were that.
That's right.
We were acknowledging that we were Gentiles. We were acknowledging that we were a people that were here, but we had no connection to our roots and to our way of life, because really we didn't know what it was.
Right.
Until truth began to come into our hearts. So once again, that's important. Now, the two brides will become united in Yahuwah's hand. Dressed allegorically, they still remain separate, but they are united now in will and purpose. Once again, this is how you know this is us, because you got us, Yehuda, those that know and continue to do, and everybody's not like that. And you have those that we speak and do the same thing, but when it comes to the will and purpose, but when it comes down to coming together, we still got a whole lot to wait on and to do. But when it comes to the will and purpose, we all on that same page, but do it differently. You know, you might have to be ready to catch, but I hop my up, and we still got some ground to come together and bridge this gap. It's all said and done. Abba Yah is worked on that, and it's done, but now it's up to us to accept the work that's already been done and come together. Right. And so once again, this is important that we understand that, so we won't be running around saying they just stupid and they just some ignorant people. You know, I mean, to a degree, ignorant is not what we've been taught to believe, that it's just a bad word. It means you lack knowledge, and you lack that knowledge that is needed for wherever you are. And so that's what ignorance means. It's not a bad word. It just means that sometimes we're ignorant of certain things, and we continue to do, and it don't make it no better when tempers flare up because of that.
Right.
All right, let's read. We're at verse 19.
Say to them, thus says Master Yahuwah, behold, I will take the heads of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Yisrael, his fellows, and will put them even with the heads of Yehuda, and make them one staff out of them, and they shall be one in my hand.
And it is so. Now he's already gave what he's going to do. He says, say to them, thus says the Master Yahuwah, behold, I will take the Etzah of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Yisrael, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the Etzah of Yehuda, and make one staff out of them, and they shall be one in my hand. We're going to be one in his hand. And this is why it's important that we listen to the Ruach HaKodesh and we walk out the steps that Abiyah has given unto us. Because he's going to be the one that makes us one. What we're supposed to do is continue to follow in his will and continue to stand and continue to proclaim the Besorah to our Mishpachah. That's what we're supposed to do. And this is why it is important that we, if we're going to deal with one another, then we deal with one another. It's not a good thing to put our stuff out there and have everybody, on it, because now you got people going to take sides. And that's the worst thing you could do, because now you got people pitted against each other because of beliefs and because of how people do things, not because they themselves are fully convinced, but because they hobble the person and esteem them or that group, and now they'll take that side even if they don't know that much about them, just because of how they feel about them. Now you got those on lower levels that's doing a whole lot of things. And when I say low, it's not to be negative or to make anybody feel like, well, I'm not of importance. We're all important to Abiyah, but at the same time, we're now all are not in the same position. Do you understand? Yeah. We're not all in the same position. I'm not regarding myself higher than I ought to or over anybody, but at the same time, it's important that we understand some of us are in different positions, and we tend to sometimes immaturely take sides. And you have to understand, that's just like if you have siblings and they get to brawling. Now you taking sides. Well, I'm gonna take the my eldest brother's side or my younger side because he always does this for me. If they're doing something, if they're first and foremost physically engaging, they're both wrong. And if they are assassinating each other's character, they still both wrong. Slander is still against the will of Abiyah. Right. And so we can't afford to get in that, and we should never take sides. Because the more you feed fuel to that fire, the bigger it's going to get and the hotter that blaze is going to become. So it's not for us to do, so we need to remain allied and say, I'm on the side of Yahuwah. And that's what you need to be, and y'all need to repent to each other, and let's continue this move so we can go home. Right. And it is so.
It is so.
All right, let's read. Mm-hmm. 20.
Oh. Verse 20 reads, and the etzem whereon you write shall be in your hand before their eyes.
Read 22.
And say to them, thus says the Master Yahuwah, behold, I will take them of Yasser from among the Gentiles, where they be gone, and will gather them on from every side, and bring them into their own land.
Now, once again, this is important too. And say to them, thus says the Master Yahuwah, behold, I will take the children of Yisrael from among the Gentiles. Now, this is where he's saying he's going to take us from the place he scattered. Right. He's going to separate us, so now we will no longer be considered Gentiles. Right. Where they be gone, and I will gather them on from every side and bring them into their own land. Once again, it's important that we understand we know we're not in our land. We know we're in the land of our enemies, and we know we have a land. And so that's why we live every day of our lives in great expectation and anticipation of when he's coming to get us and what it is we need to do to maintain our consistency. It is important that we understand that. All right, let's read.
Verse.
Just the 2.
Verse 23.
Yes.
Verse 23 and 24.
Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all the dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them, so they shall be my people, and I will be their power. Verse 24. And Dawood my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my right rulings, and observe my statutes, and do them. And it is so.
And it is so. Now watch what it says. And I will make them one nation in the land of the mountains of Yisrael, and one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more 2 nations, neither shall they be divided into 2 kingdoms any more at all. Once again, this is why it is important that we study and that we learn and that we grow and develop and know that we are headed in the direction of being a Akkad under Abba Yah's rule and protection. And there will be one king, and he will be king over us all. Now listen to verse 23. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their power. Once again, you have to understand, he's taking us and he's doing a renewal in us. He is doing a work in our lives so that we, as he prepares us, will be ready to go back with him. Once again, you have to understand, many are still defiling themselves. Many of us are still doing the test of things. Many of us are still in that mentality and mindset of sinning. And so he says, but I'm going to be your power because I'm going to teach you. This is why we're in a time of recovery, restoration, and then revival will come, but it cannot come until we are recovered. You have to understand, we've got to, he has to recover us out of that place of abomination, out of that place of disarray, out of that place of disobedience, out of that place of Torahlessness. He's got to bring us out, recover us out of that. Why? Because that's the lifestyle we live. And so how is he doing it? Through teaching. He's doing it through the teaching of the Torah. He's doing it through, excuse me, through fellowship, through the Mo'ed, the appointed times, through our Sabbath. This is why it's important that we do everything within our power to maintain that consistency so that we can learn how to be prepared and ready. That's right, that's right. We're not preparing ourselves. He is preparing us through the Torah. That's right. And that's why it's important that we understand what and where we're supposed to be. Now look at verse 24. And Dawood, my servant, shall be king over them. And they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my right ruling and obey and observe my statutes and do them. Now, look at this, because so many years we always thought this was figuratively, but this is not. According to the theologians and according to the writings, this is King Dawood who will be resurrected in the millennial reign. King Yahusha will be the universal king and king, but Dawood will be the collegiate ruler over all of Israel. Now you have to understand too, many of people that do not understand our lifestyle, they would think that that can't be so. That's not right. That's not real. Yes, it is. This is where, once again, Christianity warped our way of thinking. Yahuwah does not put anything in writing just for the sake of putting it in there. Right. Once again, either it's a hidden mystery, or it's a drash, or it's sold, or it's remez. Once again, it's for Peshat. You have to understand, he said that he would be the shepherd. Now, mind you, when Dawood went to sleep, because he didn't die, he went to sleep. Right. He went to sleep. And he found esteem in the eyes of Abba Yah. Who messed up? We know Shaul messed up. We know even his son, King Sahulam messed up. But it was Dawood, when he knew he had messed up and he had sinned. What did he do? He repented before the whole court. He didn't send anybody out. He didn't go into private and say, well, won't nobody know if we keep quiet about it. No, he took off his robe, and there he repented, and he said, against you, Abba Yah, and you only have I sinned. And that is how he won the heart of Abba Yah. Why? Because when he messed up, he knew how to go and repent about it. That's right. He didn't go hiding and try to get somebody to justify and cover what he was doing. He repented. Are you understanding me? Now, it took Yahuwah being creative with bringing that to him through Nathan, but he still accepted it. He didn't sit up there and kill Nathan. You have to understand, when Abba Yah does ahava us, he's going to always bring it to us and let us know, no, this is what you did, and you need to get it right. And he had no problem with getting it right. And whenever he messed up, he always made sure he repented for his deeds. Right. So once again, it's important that we understand. It says it, and we follow it. Now, once again, for people that don't believe in the millennial reign, of course this sounds far-fetched and off. Because they're looking for what? A rapture. That's right. They're looking to be taken out of here while everybody else struggles. And you have to understand, rapture was created by a European. I can't even think of the man's name. But it was created, that theory was created by somebody. It's not, it is not according to the writings. So once again, we got to renew our mind. Romans 12:2. And be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may present that what is excellent and right and in the sight of Abba Yah. Once again, it is important. I stay within certain veins of verses. Why? Because repetition. It's important that we understand until we get the first part of it down, you can't move on to part two.
That's right. That's right.
Because how you gonna go to part two and you still slipping up on part one?
Right.
So it's important that you understand what I have to give you. And until he moves me, I can't move. And I'm not ready to move until he's ready to move me.
That's right.
Because we have to grow and be ready. There's a thing, and we're moving on, but there's something when you're planting a garden, especially when you're planting spring and summer vegetation, to make it good and hard, not to the point where it won't grow, but to prepare it even in the fall times. You plant them and you give them just a little taste of the outside. That harsh weather a little bit. Not too much to where to kill them, but just enough where to make them go, phew, that's cold out there, and then you bring them back in. You harden them so that they'll be able to grow and the elements won't kill them. Right. This is what this teaching does for us. Any good teaching, not all teachings, but the teaching that keeps you in the path of Abba Yah through your Mashiach, that's what it does. It prepares you so that when hard times hit, you are hard. You are able to take it. You're able to take what is dished out at you. You're able to take criticism and know, hey, I got to keep moving because I got to remain focused. You're able to take the ostracism. I got to maintain because, I need to make sure that I'm not, just in this because I'm trying to grab and get with everybody. I got to maintain. So if there's ever a time that I am alone or in solitude, I know what to expect and know you haven't abandoned me. This is just something I have to go through. Understand me? In martial arts, they fortify the arms and the I think it's the shin, and they're constantly kicking and they're constantly hitting. No, you don't want your hand all rubbery like sandpaper, like shark skin and like stingray skin, but you want that muscle and that part where if you ever have to hold your arm up and somebody hits it, right, you're able to take that blow. Right. This is what we do and why we need to be in class. And I'm not just saying you have to be in mine, but you be in a class where the Torah is being taught and it is rubbing you. And even if it rubs you wrong, it is rubbing off those calluses and those hard places that need to be rubbed off. Right. So that you can live and not die. Right. And so that everything that he has spoken can be made visible and tangible in and upon your life and my life as well. And it is so. And it is so. Now let's read 25. We did 24. Let's read 25, please.
25:26.
Yes.
And they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Yaakov, my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make the covenant of shalom with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. And it is so.
And it is so. Listen what Abba said. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Yaakov, my servant, wherein your Abbas have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they and their children, and their children's children. He already knows what's what. How long? Forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of shalom with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will put them and what? Multiply them. I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. Multiplication. This is the doing of Abba Yah. And when he does it, it will be done. You don't have to do anything but cooperate with what he's already put in place. Right. What happens is when we step out of cooperation, that's what causes problems. And so we must find ourselves cooperating with his will. All right, 27, 28.
My people. The nation shall know that I am Yahuwah. Do so when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore.
It is so. And it is so. Now look at this once again. it's just phenomenal. And it ought to be truly an encouragement, especially on our day of rest and a time of commemoration. It ought to be truly something that we are truly loving. Verse 27, my tabernacle also shall be with them. Yes, I will be their power, and they shall be my people. And the nations shall know that I, Yahuwah, do set apart Yisrael, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Once again, that's important for us to understand. This is why we're being groomed. This is why we are being in the position we're in, because of what Abba Yah is doing with us. We cannot show people wisdom if we ourselves don't know what wisdom looks like.
Right, that's right.
It's important. He said, I will be your power, and they shall be my people. We are his, and he is going to do the setting apart. And listen what it says, and the nation shall know that I, Yahuwah, do set apart who? Yisrael. That means us as one. He sets us apart. But we've got to maintain that flow. We cannot stop the flow. We got to maintain it. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, let us go to our Hadasha portions, which is in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. You haven't seen it, so. $17.89. You have it? Oh, chapter 2, verse 1. You do too. Swap it too.
And he has made you alive who were dead in trespasses and sins, where in time past you walked, according to the course of this world, according to the ruler of the authority of the air, the ruler that is now energizing the children of disobedience. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, look at how it begins to go and shows us from the Torah portions to the Torah Haftarah and the Brit Hadasha portions. This is why I like following in this pattern, because it brings us up to date, per se. Now, he's talking to them in Ephesus or in Ephesia. And he says, he has made you alive who were dead in trespasses and sins. What were they doing? They were breaking the Torah. So now that we are alive, there's no need for us to do that anymore. Now he's reminding us. Are you understanding? And this is what we're supposed to do to one another. Remind us of what we used to be and how we used to do, especially when we see ourselves or us going wayward. You understand me?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that. Now, wherein in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the ruler of the authority of the air, the ruler that is now energizing the children of disobedience. Once again, he's showing us as we used to walk. We used to do the same thing, so now we're not doing that. So it's important to understand what was going on in that time as what is going on today. Are we understanding?
Yes.
The 10 only. Shaul is here directing his speech to the house of Yisrael, the 10 scattered tribes. Now, Shaitan is called the ruler of the air. Means he is ruling not the world as erroneously taught, but ruler of the air. He sees people and energizes them to commit disobedient acts against the children of Yisrael. Now, once again, for so long, we always thought, well, he's got jurisdiction in the earth. No, he does not have jurisdiction in the earth. He's the prince of the air. That's jurisdiction, and that's his place of abode. Once again, but if you succumb to what he is saying and began to be a tool for him, then sure he could do things because you'll be his tool in the earth to do it. So it's important that we understand that. All right, let's read 3, please. Chapter 2, verse 3. Let me just one.
Among whom also we had all conversations in times past, and lust of the flesh, desires of the flesh, of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others.
And it is so. Now, look what it says. Among whom also we all had our conversation in time past in the lust of our flesh. You know what lust is? It is a strong, abnormal desire. That's what lust is. A strong, abnormal desire. And so look at what he's saying. Of our flesh. Fulfilling the desires of the flesh and mind. Now, once again, you have to look at how this connects. When you tell them we have to keep the Sabbath rest, we have to keep the moed, the appointed times. Most of the time, people will really have an issue with that because they are accustomed to going to the mall, shopping. Why? Because on is the day that people do mostly everything. Only shutdown is on Sunday, the day of sun worship. Why? Because the day they are supposed to, what we are really supposed to regard is the Sabbath day, the seventh day. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
Problem comes in is that the regard goes to the first day, which is Sunday, the worship of the sun. Now, somebody will say, well, what does that have to do with us? Because people love to do what everybody else does, they will tend to want to still follow in that vein and say, well, you know, I got to do what I got to do. Well, this is what the writing sums you up as being, or showing in what it's supposed to be in times past. But sometimes it's still prevalent in people because that desire of the flesh and of the mind. Why? I don't understand. Why should we do this? I don't think we should do this. I feel we should be able to do this. It's not about a feeling. It is about what we've been instructed to do. Right. Now listen what he says. And were by nature the children of wrath. That meant that others were the children of the children of wrath, even as others. That meant they were being heaped up. We were being treated and we were being addressed like everybody else. Why? Because we were out of truth. Now, let's read.
Verse 4. But power, rich in mercy, for his great Ahab wherewith he Ahabed us.
Read 5.
Even when we were dead in sins, he has quickened us together with Mashiach. By favor you are saved.
By seed.
By seed.
Okay. Now, once again, if you look in the King James Version, it says by grace. That word was put in there. It is not by grace, it is by esteem. How are we? And this is what separates us from everybody else. And this is what allows us to be known as a set apart people, because it's not by grace, but it's by esteem, which is also a word that they coin as favor. We don't use favor either. Okay? But once again, it is important that we understand. And look what it says. But Yahuwah, who is rich in mercy, for his great Ahab, wherein Ahab does. Are you understanding? It is because of that Ahab that when we were dead in sins, he quickened us together with Mashiach. That's why you cannot, people that say, well, he ate this and he don't live. If you quicken together with him, then you cannot be a cod with children of Yisrael. Because through him that we made what? A cod.
That's right.
All right, come on. Let's go. Let's finish reading.
Verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
Just one verse.
6, you can do 6 to 7.
And has raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Mashiach Yahushua, that in the ages to come he might show the exceedingly riches of his favor, his mercy, and his kindness towards us through Mashiach Yahushua.
Mm-hmm. Now, once again, and has raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Mashiach Yahushua, that in the ages to come, that are here and that are still going to come, as long as he continues to give us, as long as he continues to work on us. Are you understanding?
Yes.
All right. Now listen what it says. He might show the exceedingly riches of his esteem and his kindness towards us through Mashiach Yahushua. It is through that, when Yahushua came, that we really see the kindness and the ahava of Yahuwah. You cannot see it outside of that. Because if he did not love us, ahaba us, he would not have sent us an example and had not sent us a redeemer. Are you understanding? You have to look at, just as Yahusha, the son of Nun, was a redeemer or a savior, so was Yahusha, even in that same manner. Are you understanding? That's why it's important that we understand what Yahusha is going to do. Even though people still try to look and say, well, he was just a white man or Jesus was black. Get Jesus out your mind, period. It has nothing to do with Jesus. This is about Yahusha, the son of Yahuwah. And the name of Yahusha is found in the name of Yahuwah, and the name of Yahuwah is found in the name of Yahusha. And so it is important that we understand that Yahusha means to be saved or to save. And so it's important that we understand that when Yahuwah sent Yahusha to come and be redemption for us and to be that sacrifice for us, it was the kindness of his ahaba and his ahaba that was being shown to us, because he could have left us where we were.
That's right.
He could have left us where we were, but he did not. And so it's important that we understand that. All right, let us read.
Verse 7. Verse 8. For by favor are you saved through belief, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of Yahuwah. And it is so.
And it is so. For by esteem are you saved through what? Belief. Belief. And that not of yourselves, it is the gift of Yahuwah. Once again, you look at that. For by esteem are you saved through belief, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of Yahuwah. Once again, regardless of our lineage, it is still the gift of Abba Yah unto us. It is still his gift unto us. And we should never ever forget that. It is his gift unto us. And knowing who we are and what tribe we originated from, it is still a gift. Right. And we should never ever take that for granted and never ever be disrespectful to that. Right. And it is so. All right, come on. 9.
Not of works, lest any man should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Mashiach Yahusha, to good works, which Yahuwah has before ordained that we should walk in them. And it is so.
And it is so. Not of works, lest any man should boast. Now, once again, it is important that we don't take this out of context, because the first thing people use is try to use that to rebuttal us keeping the Sabbath and keeping the Moed. Because they think, well, that's all based upon works. No, that's all based upon appointment. That's based upon appointment, not works. And so once again, this is where the issue comes in, because then folks start trying to negate, and they start trying to weed out what they believe is works. And it has nothing to do, he is not talking about the Moed, the time of appointments. That's not what he's talking about, because that's what you have to understand. The feasts are the Moed appointments. It was translated into feasts and the Moed and all that great stuff. But it is appointment. This is the time that he meets with his mishpachah. These times. You have to understand there are 7 appointments. 7 is the what? Number of what? It's the number of completion. 8 is the number of new beginnings. Now, what's important for us understanding that is that he meets with us 7 times. Because each time we meet with him, he is completing something in us. Each time we meet with him on those appointed times or at those appointed times. We don't go, for those that, and I just want to use this as an analogy real quick. You don't go to the doctor every day. Right. You have appointments. And most of the time when people set up, those appointments be way off in the distance. They'll never set around, the next day. You have to understand, Abba Yah gave us important dates to keep, because that is the time that he met with our ancestors and forefathers, and it's an appointment. And so he kept it with them, and he keeps it with us. This is why we can't afford to start trying to create new days and create things that he did not create. Because then you miss the real have to understand, this appointment is with him. Nobody else, but this is with him. And if we miss that appointment, then we can go to the next appointment, but we have to wait to the next time or the next cycle to meet him for that appointment. You have to understand, he's not coming with the same agenda each appointment. It's going to be something different for each appointment. We will never know what that is if we miss it.
That's right.
And I don't know about you, but I've missed enough appointments that I refuse to miss any more.
Right.
That's right.
I will not miss any more appointments. Why? Because this is my lifestyle. This is the way to appreciate him and how I am to esteem him, because this is what he comes to give us, instructions. And I truly believe at these appointments, this is where we see the greatest healing. Now, someone will say, well, Yahusha did it and he did it all the time. But you have to understand, he was doing, and yes, we still see that. But those were for those that were outside of truth. Those were for those that had been violated, had been walking in error, and had opened themselves up to demonic oppression and depression, and had been possessed. And so now he had to bring freedom and truth to them so that they could be open to receive truth. If you have a full glass, nothing can get in until it's empty. You cannot put anything else in a full glass. So they had to be emptied in order to receive the Besura that he was bringing to our people, the children of Yisrael. This is why, once again, it is important that we understand that we seek when we know we have issues in our lives. And you can't lie and say you don't. When you have an issue in your life, that you seek Abba Yah for deliverance and for help, so that he can give it to us. And so when that time is given to us, we're able to receive it. It sounds horrible. We're able to receive it. Are you hearing me? So that's one of the important things that we ought to always look for. Now let's look at verse 10, and we're going to close out once again. Let's read verse 10 one more time.
For we are his workmanship, created in Mashiach to good works, which Yahuwah has before ordained that we should walk in.
Okay, and it is so.
Yes.
All right, let's look at verse 10, and then we're getting ready to pray. For we are his what? Workmanship. Now, when we think about workmanship, when I think about it, I go back to Ezekiel chapter 37. Can these bones live? That's his workmanship. I see nothing but bones, but Yahuwah sees a complete army. We are his workmanship. That's what he sees of us. Are you understanding? Everybody else may see us as castaways and wannabes, and we trying to come in and do something, and you know, we can call it hard, but Yahuwah sees us as a strong army. Are you understanding? With everything else, we're not crippled and we're not broken.
Right. That's right.
Workmanship, for we are his workmanship. And that's what I see when we look at that in that whole chapter. The bones, the army. Now listen what he says. Created in Mashiach Yahusha to good works. Whenever you raise something up and bring it back, you're not good works, I'm sorry, to great works. Are you understanding? To great works. Which Yahuwah has before. Before means has before they got to that time that it was supposed to be done. So by the time they got there, it would already be in motion. But because they had not done it, it was still ordained for time. Are you understanding me?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand that. That we should what? Which Yahuwah has before ordained that we should walk in them. He had already ordained that we were supposed to walk in his truth. And so it's important that we accept that and accept this as our way of life. And it is so.
It is so.
Now, the works that Rabbi Shaul refers to here is Torah works, commanded that Yahuwah required for us to show our ahava for him. Once again, this is how we show that we ahava him, by keeping this and by meeting him at the appointed times. Those appointed times are very important to us as his children. And it is so. And it is so. Once again, I want to say to you on this great day, it's a great day because Abba Yah has created it, right. And we're going to be thankful and be glad in it. This day of Yom Shabbat, a time of commemoration and celebration, that we hold fast to all that he's given unto us and all that he says to us. Why? Because it is working good for us, and it is showing us the importance of living according to his instructions. As I said before, we can't be perfect, and he is perfecting us through the Besorah, through the Torah. And we've got to make sure we find ourselves being focused and being vigilant and being sober. Don't be drunken by the things that are out there. Don't be carried away or taken away by the things that are outside of truth. I know they are around us, and there are some times that, you can't help but kind of look and say, okay, I need to check and see what's going on here. But don't get so inundated that now it overshadows everything that our Yah has said. We know that things are going to get rough, and we know they're going to get tough, but we cannot disregard and discard the promises because we see things that seem like they're going to be just a little bit too much for us to be able to handle. It's important that you have more Torah in you than you have news in you.
That's right.
Because whatever you have in you is going to be the basis for your strength and for your ability to overcome or succumb to what it is that's being promoted. Once again, we are overcomers. And because we're overcomers, we can rest assured that no matter what happens, he is going to take care of us because he is our Savior. Adam, I am Yahuwah, thy Savior. And a Savior is one who delivers, and a Savior is one who sets free. And I believe with all my heart that that's what he's doing, and that's what he's going to continue to do. In the mighty name of Yahushua HaMashiach. And it is so.
It is so.
And it's so. Come on, put your hands together and Baruch him. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We do esteem Abiyah, this great rising, this great day, this day of celebration, commemoration, the day that we celebrate and commemorate our rest. I want to say to you, you rest well today, a day that Abiyah has given unto us. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in Abiyah and know that he is not going to leave you and he's not going to forsake you. Once again, I want you to remember that we're praying with you and praying for you. Also, keep your head up, keep your shoulders squared, and keep your heart and your feet in and of the Torah, because you can't go wrong when you allow the Torah to be a guide. I want you to remember that I am Prophetess Sabrina Brown, also Moral 777, and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief Ministries, located in South Carolina. I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Great Belief Ministries, this is the place where the Torah does the fighting. Excellent, 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 excellent. Ooh, excellent. I also want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.